Okay, to do this beautiful page, I love this idea. You're going to use your straight trimmer as well as you're going to want a piece of double-sided paper. Let me just pull apart. I have a double-sided piece of paper. This is from one of the, I think this is from the Snowbound collection a few years ago that I had laying around. And I said, oh, that's perfect. It's double-sided. It's got a pretty pattern with the same, almost the same color. So when I fold it, you'll see both sides, but um, it, uh, like I said, you want it to be somewhat of the same color. It doesn't have to be, but I'm going to show you this cool technique. Then you're going to want a solid color or a pattern paper that you can use for that inside square. So I picked my baby blue, my powdered blue color, and then I picked a brighter blue for the background. And I'm going to show you how I cut that so that I used the same piece of paper. I only used one piece of paper to make the squares in the center. So I'll show you how to cut out a few frames to make this all come together. So to start, I'm just going to move my sample over here. You're going to get your straight trimmer out. And if you have two binder clips, I have these little binder clips that I always keep in my bag. They look like this. You probably have some laying around. I use the little ones because it makes it a little bit easier to mark off where you're going to cut and stop cutting on your trimmer. So you're going to take your blade housing. This is the little house that holds the blade inside. It does have a line on the side. So when you press it, that's exactly on that line is where the blade is going to start cutting on the mat strip. And because there is a ruler on the side of this arm that holds that blade housing, it's great to see exactly where I'm going to start and stop cutting, except that that white line is covered by this house. So you can't, sometimes it's hard to get it exactly on the right line. What I want to do is cut a 1-inch frame. So I'm going to move, if you notice, this white line and the edge of this housing box is exactly 1 inch from the edge. So what I'm going to do, if I want to start cutting my paper at the 1-inch mark, I'm going to move that white line to about the 1-inch mark, and to know exactly where it is, the edge of that housing box is going to go on the 2-inch marking. So it's a little hard to see on my screen, but the edge of this blade housing is right on the 2-inch mark. So I'm going to put that on the 2-inch mark. I'm going to hold it down, no papers in there yet. And then I'm going to take one of these binder clips and I'm going to clip it onto the rail. So now when I move my blade housing, it can't go beyond that binder clip. It stops it right at that 1-inch mark. Now I'm going to move it down to the other end of the ruler, and I want to make sure that that white line stops at the 11-inch mark. So the edge of the housing here, this edge of this square, is going to stop at 12 inches, and I'm going to take my other binder clip and put it right on the rail, right up against that housing. Make sure it's right on the, there we go. So it's on the rail. Now my blade housing can't move beyond those binder clips. So I'm going to put my piece of paper in. I put it at the 1-inch mark because I want a 1-inch frame all the way around. And I'm going to cut between those binder clips. If you don't have binder clips, you're just going to start your paper cutting it at the 1-inch mark and go down to the 11-inch mark and just cut a straight line 1 inch from the edge. See how I just cut that? But I didn't go all the way through. I stopped at the 1-inch mark and the 11-inch mark. I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to do the same thing on each side. Just make sure your piece of paper is at the 1-inch mark um, on your mat here, you can see all the measurements across the top of this trimmer. And you're going to do this on each side. So basically what I'm doing is cutting a frame out of my paper that I'm going to use to fold onto this cool technique of a page. So just turning it, and again, I put it at the 1 inch mark and cut between those blades. And then when I'm all done with all 4 sides, take out the middle. Oops, I missed a little bit on that edge. And you have that 1 inch frame, perfect for this paper, perfect for this page. And make sure you save that middle sheet because you can use that on something else. If you put it on a plain piece of paper, so say if I just took a plain piece of paper and put that in the center, that makes a beautiful page also. So save that for something else. But in the meantime, we're going to use this frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my, not cut, I'm going to fold. So what I want to do is take the straight blade out and put in a scoring blade. So I'm just going to take my scoring blade, and this is where I store all the different fancy blades that Creative Memories came out with. Put that in, so it's just a scoring blade. I'm going to take my frame that I just cut, and if you notice on your trimmer, there is this diagonal 45-degree angle line. People always ask me, what do you use that for? Well, tonight we're using that. We're going to take this frame. I'm just moving things out of the way here. My desk is a little full tonight. I'm going to take this frame. I'm going to put it into my trimmer, and you're going to put it backwards in. I'm going to put the edge of this frame right on that 45-degree line, and I'm going to put the very point of my frame at the 2.5-inch mark. So I'm going to look for the 2.5-inch mark, which is right here on that 45-degree inch or the 45-degree angle. So the edge of my paper is right along that line. The point of my paper is on the 2.5-inch marking. And then I'm just going to score both sides of that corner. So when I pull it out, now I can fold it back on both sides, and it's going to be at the perfect spot. So I folded that I'm sorry, my screen is doing weird things. So I fold that back, and you can put a little tape on that just to hold it in place. So that corner is done. Now I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. I'm sorry, there we go. So I'm going to take the next corner. Again, I'm going to put it in along that 45-degree line. I'm going to put the point of my paper, that corner, right on the 2.5-inch mark. Fold down your housing blade arm and just score it. So when I pull it out, it's scored on both sides, and I'm just going to fold it back and put a little tape. And I'm just using repositional tape underneath it. You can use regular tape, whatever tape you have, just tape it down a little bit. And like I said, we're doing this on each corner. So again, we're putting it in, we're putting it along that 45-degree line, and I'm putting the tip of the point of that corner on the 2.5-inch mark, scoring it and folding it back. Oops. I'm going to fold that back on both sides, put a little tape under it so it keeps it folded. And then my last corner, see what the pattern that it's making? So then we do the last corner. Again, it's going into that 45 degree angle. The point is on the 2.5-inch mark, and pull it out and then fold it back. So this in itself would look really cool on, and that's how I started it. It would look really cool on your piece of paper. And I was going to put it on the darker one just to follow my frame. So now when I put it on my page, this would look really cool in itself. But I thought it needed another color. And if it folded correctly, it should be about where this point should line up with that 6-inch mark on your page. Paper's a little off. So when I put it down on my mat, this is the newer Creative Memories mat, so you can actually see the ruler around the outside of your page. Love this new mat. And then when I put my folded piece of paper down, this point lines up with that 6-inch edge of each side of your page. And just have to move it down a little off. There we go. So that would be perfect. I just felt it needed another color in the middle. So what I came up with before you stick it down, what I came up with was, let me put a square underneath this. And to go with the pointed edges here, I don't know if you can see it, but I used the new pinking blade that goes with your trimmer. So I just thought that would kind of be something different. You can use any blade. It could be a straight piece of paper. I've also seen it done with a deco trimmer, which is our wavy trimmer. But I wanted to use the pinking blade because I thought that went really cool with the points on this page. So what I want to do is I am cutting the light blue. I'm cutting it to a 10-inch square. But I'm going to tell you something. It's probably really cool if you did the same exact. I notice I didn't take my binder clips off. That's because I'm going to cut a 1-inch frame off the outside of this piece of paper using that pinking edge. And you're going to say, oh, wow, that looks really cool. And then what I'm going to do is take the middle and use the middle of the paper, and I have that frame for another page. So again, I'm going to take, let's move that over, my piece of paper. I'm going to put it at the 1-inch mark. I have that pinking blade in there now, which means it's going to give it a nice, almost like a rickrack edge. Again, it's starting where the binder makes it start at the 1-inch. The binder clip makes it start at the 1-inch edge, and it goes down to the 11-inch edge. And then I just flip my paper to the next side and do the next side. So again, cutting 1-inch over. And then just do each side. And that way I can use, I'm using the center, which will be all cut out with that pinking blade, but I will still have that frame for the outside of the page to use on another page, which at the end, I'm going to show you a little bonus page using all the pieces that we cut out and didn't use. I'll show you how I put them together to make a little bonus page. Okay, so now I have my square. It ends up being a 10-inch square, all with that pinking edge from the pinking blade. I'm just going to pull that out and put my straight blade back in. Okay, and I have this frame, which I don't need for this page, so I'm going to use it for something else. So I'll just put that aside. So now, before I tape down this frame that I folded, I'm going to stick it under each one of these corners, pointed inwards. Doesn't that look cool? And then once you have it centered on that frame that you have there, yes, you're gonna have little spots around that you can see through it. That's okay. All I'm gonna do is take my tape and I'm gonna just lift the corners and put some tape on that frame underneath so that I'm taping it in place and it'll stay for when I put it down on the page. So I'm just going to do this. And notice I didn't tape anything down to the outside paper yet. And I'll show you why in just a minute. Okay, so I have this all built, ready to go. But when I put it down on this darker blue piece of paper, I loved it. But I said, oh, I want to put some kind of squares in the middle of this color, but I don't want to use up another piece of paper. So I used my frame technique on this as well by cutting out the center. And then I could use the center on the front for this window effect or to use as photo boxes. So what I'm going to do is just move this aside. Oh, you can also put some tape on under these points as well, just so that it stays all in place before we tape it all down. Okay, so now you have this middle piece that we're still building on. I'm going to cut a frame out of this piece of paper, and I'm just using my straight edge blade. On this one, though, I am going to move it so that it's cutting a 2-inch.
No, just watching a video with Alice. What's up?
I'm just cutting a 2-inch
You're just
frame.
leaving work. Wow.
Um, so I'm moving this so that my blade housing starts at the edge of the box is at the 3-inch mark. So it will actually cut at the 2-inch mark and then move it down that I want the edge of the box at 11 inches, putting my binder clip right behind it on the rails. So now it can only cut between the 2-inch mark and the 10-inch mark. And now when I put it down, my paper down, I'm going to put the edge of the paper at 2 inches. I'm going to turn the paper and put it at the 2-inch mark again. So what I'm doing this time is cutting a 2-inch frame. And the reason I wanted a 2-inch frame is the last one, I only cut 1 inch off the edge. I want to make sure there's enough room for me to tape that creation that we just made down to the paper. So I'm cutting a 2-inch frame all the way around. So I'll have about an 8-inch square out of the center. So did I cut it? Yep. So I pull that out and now I have that. There it is. I have that 2-inch square, 2-inch frame all the way around. So this is what I'm going to use as my base. I'm going to put some tape around the edges of that inside cutout square. And then I'm going to tape this down. I am going to put a little tape on my corner. Actually, I'll wait until it's actually down on the paper. And then I know right where I want my tape. So I'm just lining up my edges with the edge of the paper. There we go. If it's a little off, it's okay. It'll look fine. I'm going to tape this. There we go. And that all goes down on your paper. You can go back and put a little tape under each of these edges of that beginning frame we cut out, that first frame. I'm a little off kilter here, but that's all right. You get the idea of how it's supposed to look. and that edge and that edge. Okay, so we have our page. You can see how it's all coming together. This would look beautiful. You could take a couple of photo mats, put them on your page and use it like that. Or what I ended up doing was, being that I cut out that middle just to be able to use this piece of paper on something else, I thought, you know what? Why not? I'm going to cut this. This is an 8-inch square. So I'm going to cut it at 4 inches both ways. So I have four 4-inch squares. So I cut it at 4 inches, stack them up, flip them over, and cut it at 4 inches again. Yeah. 4 inches. So now I have my 4 squares that can get tucked underneath. And just tuck it under. There we go. And I try to line them up, and then I can just lift the edges and tape them down. Easy page. It looks harder than it actually is. A little piece of paper there, a little shaving of something. I'm going to show you one of our new tools that I swear everybody, when they see it in action, is going to love it. I've showed it at a few of my crops, and I want to show you. So you see how I have this little piece of crumb here? It's like a little shaving. I'm going to move it up close. I can easily pick up my page and dump that off. But this is the lifter stick. It's only one end. You pull this off and there's a sticky piece right on the end. I thought I would never use that, but it just lifts up these tiny little pieces. If you have dots for your eyes, or I'm going to show you in on my next class, I'm using the kite, and the kite has these tiny little bows that go on the tail of the kite. Um, this lifter stick works great on picking up all those tiny little pieces. If you have tiny little pieces on your floor, I just go around and dot them with this little sticky edge, and it's just super sticky. Um, it works great. Anyway, so there's your page. Hope you like it. Create it and post it on my website.